Well, good morning. It is the Brian Hornback Experience. We're in the 170s, okay? It is Saturday, December the 28th. I am, Dr. Pepper Zero, just so y'all don't start thinking anything. By the way, that was a little intro music that comes off of a project by Gasoline and Vertebrate, Crash and Burn and Burn and Burn. That is track number 4, and that is Move to Knoxville. That's the intro to Move to Knoxville. I do have an email to where he told me I could use that as an intro. So, hey, we're trying it. We're going to end out 2024 with some intro music. And I am Brian Hornback, coming to you from the Brian Hornback Experience Old Forge Distillery Podcast Studios. Our good friends up in Pigeon Forge, Old Forge Distillery. They make all kinds of elixirs, obviously moonshine, obviously whiskey. By the way, if you ever wonder what moonshine is versus whiskey, moonshine is clearly just unaged whiskey. Pretty much straight out of back in the Popcorn Sutton days, it was straight out of the still into a mason jar. Now it's probably, it's aged some, but it's not aged like your normal type of bourbon or that type stuff. By the way, you were saying, hey, what's new here? He's wearing a beanie. He's not wearing a hat. Well, a beanie is a hat. And for those of you that follow me on the socials, you know that my friend Brian Hare has a company called My Kinda Day, where they produce hats, they produce beanies, they produce license plates, basically a lifestyle apparel company. And so this is one of the beanies. This is the charcoal gray. They got a black, they got an orange, but you see that dude right there? Name's Reb, R-E-E-B, Reb the Raccoon. That is their mascot. Reb the Raccoon is their mascot. You can get him on the one of 3 different color beanies. You can buy all 3 beanies. I don't care. He's also on hat. I have the hat as well. And they also have, they've sold out of the first run of Sikkim. It's an orange blue tick hound. And they're now into the gray Sikkim hat. They have a Crush'em hat. And so they got some interesting stuff on there. Go check them out, mykindaday.com. When you go and you purchase something, use the code Bullhorn10, and you'll get 10% off. If you're in Knoxville, Knox County, you don't have to worry about shipping. They will deliver it to you. If you want to pay shipping, you can do that. But anyway, and so the proceeds from My Kinda Day go back into a nonprofit. It's called Bella's Blessing, named after Brian and Jamie's daughter, who had a brain tumor that was successfully removed. And so they, on Christmas Eve, I think this year they gave away 85 to 100 baskets at East Tennessee Children's Hospital. They had Homer, the mascot for the Smokies, with them. They had some Smokies buckets. They had $100 or so of gift cards in there. They had a blanket. They had a toy for people who were overnight at Children's Hospital on Christmas Eve. So, so buy a hat, buy a beanie, buy a license plate. I have the 865 license plate on the front of my vehicle. Buy a license plate, use Bullhorn 10, get 10% off. Don't worry about shipping, have it delivered straight to your house. All going for a great cause, okay? So, remember our friends at Old Forge Distillery. They, like I say, they make all kinds of stuff. You can also purchase it at beverage liquor stores. If you are the type of person that cannot consume responsibly, then please do not, okay? That's just here and there. Let's talk about, I haven't been on here in December. December was a fast month for me. The last 27 days have been really quick. There was an interesting thing I got to do in the fact that I got to be an alternate elector. I'm trying to see where that's at. I got to be an alternate elector in the Electoral College for Tennessee. Well, I had it. I'll show it to you on the next one. I had a nameplate that said Brian Hornback, alternate elector on it. So as you know, or you may not know, the Electoral College is the official way that here in America we elect our president and our vice president. There's been some controversy. Schumer is still wanting to talk about doing away with the Electoral College. Tennessee gets 11 electors. The 11 electors are one per congressional district. So there's 9 congressional districts, 1st through 9. So there's one person from those 9 congressional districts. And then there's 2 statewide. 2 statewides are controlled by our 2 senators. So every state gets 2 for their senators, because every state has 2 senators, right? We have 100 senators, right? We have 435 congressional members. So the Electoral College, you would think, is 435 plus 100, it's 535, right? Not exactly. There's one more, and that's for the District of Columbia, I believe. So anyway, District of Columbia gets an elector or 2, something like that. Anyway, so that's how the Electoral College is created. So every elector gets to cast a vote. In the state of Tennessee, our electors are committed. Once, like this year, President Trump, once he won all the congressional districts and one statewide, he gets all the 11. I got to be the alternate elector, so they choose 11 electors, and they choose 11 alternate electors. Jane Chedester was the elector. She's my colleague on the state executive committee. We represent the same district. She was the alternate elector last 4 years ago. She, maybe not 4 years ago, maybe it was 8 years ago. Anyway, anyway, whatever, 4 years ago or 8 years ago, she was at the alternate elector last time. Anyway, so she got to be the elector this year. And so she cast a vote for the 2nd congressional district. There was a lot of signing going on. They each had to sign their own ballot. Then they had to sign the certification, and then they had to sign. So there was like 11. I think there's about 25 times they had to sign their name. But anyway, it was kind of cool. I was able to get my hands on this now that I've gone to broadcast. This was the agenda for the Electoral College on December 17th. Myself and former Sheriff Tim Hutchison, he was an alternate elector on one of the seats, either Blackburn or Hagerty seats. He was behind car magnate, Middle Tennessee car magnate Lee Beeman. He was the alternate elector there. But this is the agenda. It lasted a little more than an hour, I think. It was called to order by Mark Goins, our coordinator of elections. It was at 9 o'clock, December 17th, Nashville time. Then our state Republican Party chairman, Scott Golden, he did the roll call. Then they presented the certificate of elections. That's where they actually got a certificate that says you are the elector. So that was for them to keep. And then they had to fill in the vacancies. There were no vacancies. Almost everybody was there. There was a couple of alternates that couldn't make it, but at least 9 of the alternates were there, and all 11 electors were there. So the oath of office was administered by Chief Justice Holly Kirby of the Tennessee Supreme Court. Then Honorable John DeBerry, he was the Electoral College chaplain. He gave the prayer. For those of you that know of Pastor Representative John DeBerry, he was a state representative from over in West Tennessee, and the Democrats didn't like him because he didn't always cast a party line vote, and so they didn't qualify him to run on their party, and so he now works for Governor Lee. So thanks, Democrats, you gave us one. Then the Pledge of Allegiance was given by the Honorable Tim Rudd, State Representative of District 34. He's the chairman of the House Ethics, House Elections, and Campaign Finance Subcommittee of the 113th General Assembly. That's the one that just passed. Then Mark Goins explained the statewide election results. And then the electors voted for president, and then they voted for vice president. And then the presidential vote tally was announced by the Honorable John Crawford. He's state representative from up in District 1, up in Upper East Tennessee. He's also the chairman of the House Local Government Committee of the 113th Tennessee General Assembly. The reason we keep saying 113th is that was the last 2 years of the General Assembly. In January, they'll start the 114th. Then the vice presidential vote tally was announced by our own Knox County, one of our state senators, Richard Briggs of District 7, represents kind of Farragut and over into Karnes. He's the chairman of the Senate, State, and Local Government Committee of the 113th. Then there was the certificate of vote signing, and then there was the certification of the Electoral College, and then Governor Lee adjourned us. Again, it took an hour, a little more than an hour maybe, but I will say this, many of you that have followed me and know that I've done this political thing since 1982 when I was a sophomore in high school. I've said that numerous times. Robin Beard was the first campaign I ever got involved in. And there's not many times that I can say that I was somewhat awe-inspired. I was somewhat speechless. But in that occasion, in the House chambers during the Electoral College, knowing that there were less than 550 people across our country on that day, going through the process of electing the next president and vice president, thanks to the popular vote. There's been a time or two in our country where somebody got the Electoral College vote, but they didn't get the popular vote. This last year was one where President Trump got the popular vote and he got the Electoral College vote. Overwhelming results for President Trump to be not only reelected, but reelected in the middle, right? So he served a term, sat out a term, now he's going back for a term. It's only happened like twice, and I think this is only the first time a Republican's done it in our country's history. So it was a very December 17th was a very awe-inspiring. Is what I keep coming back to. Before that, the first Saturday of December, we had our state executive committee meeting, Tennessee Republican Party state executive committee meeting. Some bylaw changes were up for vote. Also, we elected our new leadership. Scott Golden is our chairman now for another 2 years. Miss Charlotte Kelly was reelected without opposition as our first vice chair. Shannon Haynes, who I was fortunate enough to be able to nominate. I didn't know she had an opponent when I asked her if I could nominate her. Likely wouldn't have changed anything, but I kind of thought she was going to be unopposed. She was challenged, but she was reelected. Beth Scott Clayton Amos has been our vice treasurer for a number of years. She lost her reelection to SEC member Terry Nicholson from Wilson County. So Terry is now our vice treasurer, and then Scott Smith was elected secretary without opposition. So we elected our leaders, went through the process, had some bylaws changes. As you know, I serve on the bylaws committee of the Tennessee on the state executive committee of the Tennessee Republican Party. 2 of them were passed, 2 of them were not passed. So it means they go back to committee, potentially go back to committee. We'll figure out what we want to do with that. I'll try to talk about that on a future podcast. But the changes, because the changes really involve, I'm writing this down so that I know that we need to talk about it on a future podcast, because some of the changes that weren't approved, we did approve an extensive setting of the rules for reorganization. Reorganization will happen in Knox County sometime toward the end of March. I'm not sure a date's been set yet, but I think it's going to be sometime near the end of March. Looking at going back to a precinct reorganization process. So precinct committee meetings will be happening sometime in February. with the county reorg happening in March. And so if you're interested in that, go to Knox County Republican Party's website. There's a place to put your information in there. They'll get you plugged in to your precinct. Then they'll notify you when that precinct meeting is going to happen, so that you can take a part in it. Some of the things that happened 2 years ago won't happen again this year. That primarily that if you haven't voted in 3 out of 4 of the last state or federal primaries, you won't be able to participate. You can come watch. You just can't participate as a delegate. It's a hard and fast rule. The problem we had across the state as we reorganized counties, both in mass and precinct conventions, was that you had a waiver process, not a vouching process. We haven't done vouching since August of 2021, when I was elected and took over the term of Matt Coleman, who'd moved out of the district. Vouching is a no-no, but that has gone away. But you have to have voted in 3 out of 4 of the last state and federal primaries. If you've not been here, if you're old enough to have voted in 4 of the last Republican primaries, but your voting record is from somewhere else, let's say you moved here in the last 3 years. So 3 of 4 last elections are about every 2 years. So we're looking at about the last 6 to 8 years. If you've not been here, then you need to contact where you came from, get your voting record, and be prepared to share it with the Contested Credentials Committee for the convention, the county convention that you want to participate in. Okay? So there is that possibility. You just got to prove that you're a Republican in order to participate in the convention and the reorganization of the party. So that happened. SEC meeting happened December 7th. Electoral College happened December 17th. Next week, which was this week, was Christmas. We had a good Christmas here at the Hornback compound. And now here we are on the Saturday after Christmas. I do want to reflect a little bit on 2 people. Take the remaining portion of this time to talk about 2 people. Talk more extensively about the other one because that one happened about 2 weeks ago. And then we'll talk about the one that just happened on Tuesday. Lillian Bean. Lillian Bean, for those of you that know, I've been around in politics since 1982. Lillian Bean, as long as I know, had been the Knox County Circuit Court clerk. As far as I know, I have to go back and look at the history to know exactly when she was elected to that position. But I know Wanda Teague was in that job for a bit. And I think Wanda went to work for Lamar Alexander. And then that's when Lillian got in, I think. Again, I could be wrong. Anyway, Lillian been around for a long time. In 1994, a group of people, right after 1994, 1994 is when our state went Republican. We elected Don Sunquist governor. We elected Bill Frist to Senate. We elected Fred Thompson to the Senate, right? So in 94, that's when Newt Gingrich had his contract with America. And so term limits was one of the portions of contract with America. So locally, there was a move to have a referendum to have term limits put on the ballot. It passed. Law director opined that the term limit provision only applied to his office, none of the others. In 2006, when yours truly was Republican Party chairman, the state Supreme Court came back and said, yep, it applies to everybody. We had already gotten past the election, right? And so then we had to go through the process of replacing them, and then another lawsuit, and had to replace the replacements, and then we had elections. It was just whatever. Anyway, people were shocked that I chose not to run for party chair in 2007. No, thank you. I had enough from 2005 to 2007. I promised my wife that I would only serve for one term. That's the one promise that I had no problem keeping. 36 years, I've kept most of them, but that was part of a joke. Anyway, let's go back to Lillian Bean. So I got started early, and Atheist Republican Club used to meet at Helms. I'm going to tell you a Lillian Bean story. Atheist Republican Club used to meet monthly at the Helms restaurant, and it was a typical, great restaurant. It's been closed for a number of years. But anyway, we would meet in the meeting room in the back, and there were round tables, obviously. And one particular night, early on in me being involved in Republican politics, I happened to be sitting at the table that was next to the table Lillian was at, and we were almost in the same exact seat. So I had a direct line of sight to Lillian Bean. And I saw Lillian do something that I still do today, because I thought it was brilliant. I don't know that I've ever told Richard or Lillian this story. Lillian has since passed. She passed this month. But Lillian reached in, I guess she reached in her pocketbook, or she had a pad of paper or something with her. But I started noticing that she was writing stuff down. And I looked, and she was looking at every table, and she would write down the name. And then it wasn't a name that she recognized. She drew a line. And what I since realized was she was writing down the names of the people that were there. She didn't know them. She drew a line. And I suspect she found out who that person was to fill the line in. I still do that today. If you'll see me at meetings or you see me somewhere, I typically will do that. Now, the difference is today versus then, I do it on my cell phone, so it's not quite as obvious. But that is something I learned from Lillian Bean. Lillian, I made reference to the 1994 term limits. In 98, Kathy Quist Shanks, ran against Lillian and beat Lillian. And so Lillian has not been in public office since. But Lillian's husband, Richard, had always worked at Knox County Juvenile Detention Center. It's actually got his name on it now. But two of the greatest people. I don't know that there's a lot of things you can say about somebody. And obviously hindsight's 2020. I'm sure Richard and Lillian have made people mad, and I'm sure there's some bad things to say about them. I'll tell you the thing about Richard that I learned is I went to him, obviously when I ran for school board. He and Lillian were supportive in 2000. When I went to him in late 2004, and I said, after I had lost the school board race, and I said, Richard, I said, I'd like to have your support to be party chairman. I'd like to be party chairman. One of my mentors, Loy Smith, was party chairman. I watched how Loy operated. I'd like to do it. I mean, before I call it quits for politics, I'd like to be party chairman. Richard said to me, Will, if it helps you for me to be for you, I'll be for you. If it helps for you to be against you, I'll be against you. I still tell people that. People come to me all the time and they say, hey, I want to run for this, I want to run for that. And I say, well, to quote my friend Richard Bean, if it helps you for me to be for you, I'll be for you. If it helps you for me to be against you, I'll be against you. But anyway, Richard and Lillian, just two of the greatest people. They had 3 wonderful children, and obviously have a lot of grandchildren. The thing about Lillian was, for a number of years, even when she was in office and after she got out of office, if you happen to be in the newspaper, you would get a card in that iconic green print in Lillian's handwriting, addressed to you, and that card would say, if you open it, you pull the card out, and the card said, I've been reading about you. It's Lillian sitting there with all the newspapers, photograph of Lillian with all the newspapers, and then you open it up, and the article you were in would be there, and then she would write in her great Lillian Bean handwriting a note with Lillian. Over the years, granted, newspapers don't write about local crap anymore. So basically, it's been either a birthday card or a Christmas card. Interestingly enough, on Saturday the 21st, I went to my mailbox and I pulled out a red envelope with green writing, Mr. and Mrs. Brian Hornback, and it was my Christmas card from Richard and Lillian, and Lillian had passed away on December 18th. Anyway, that was, if you follow me on Facebook, you saw that already, but it was interesting. So that's my Lillian and Richard Bean stories for today. And we had another loss on Christmas Eve, December 24th. The burial will not be until Friday the 3rd, with the celebration of life services up at Claps Chapel Methodist Church on Sunday the 5th. But Representative Dave Wright, who served on the county commission in the 8th district, his wife passed away on Christmas Eve. Pat, Dave and I still talk about this. When Dave was on county commission, I had a friend of mine that owned a company that wanted to talk to all the commissioners, and so I arranged it. And so we were going to meet Dave. We're going to meet Commissioner Wright at the restaurant across from, I say it's New Beverly Baptist Church, but if you're off Washington Pike, you know where the Target is. It's across the street from the Target. I think it's Habaneros now. But anyway, so we were going to meet, my buddy and I, going to meet Commissioner Wright at this restaurant. And we go, and Pat's there, and that's fantastic. Me and Pat had one of the greatest conversations ever. Dave has always told me that she still occasionally would ask about me, particularly when he'd come to Center City Conservative Republican Club. I've been president of that club for, seems like forever. But I would always joke with Dave because he was a pretty snazzy dresser. And I would always tell him that, yeah, I'm sure Pat laid your clothes out this morning. But, reading the obituary for Pat, I knew that David he served in the military, but I had no idea how much travel, Dave and Pat had done. But when you read her obituary, it's in mine at Funeral Home. When you read her obituary, you'll understand more about Pat. I understood more about Pat after her passing than I knew in the time that she and I had spent time together. And so I know it's a great loss for the Wright family. Dave has been reelected to the state house. So he's got 2 more years to serve before he has to run again. Here's hoping that Dave serves as long as he wants to serve. But clearly keep the Wright family, keep Dave in your thoughts and your prayers. I can't imagine losing a spouse, a child. It was hard enough when I had to put down my dog of 11 years, 7 months, and 12 days on September 17th of this year. So I can't imagine. I mean, a dog is like our family. They're like our kids. But I can't imagine losing a spouse. They were married 56 years is how I remember reading the obituary. But certainly keep them in your thoughts and prayers. She was a hairdresser. Didn't know that in the Gibbs community, and like I say, she did extensive traveling. So anyway, we're right up at the 30-minute mark. So I want to thank you all for this time. We will be talking about the 2025 city elections. We'll be talking about the 2026 federal and state elections and county elections. Right out of the gate around Christmas Day or the day after, I got a fundraising email from Tommy Tuberville, the United States Senator from Alabama. So the 2026 elections are off and running. So we'll get ready for that. So we'll talk about the SEC bylaw changes. We'll talk about the 25 city elections, and we'll talk about the 26 elections as well. Locally in 26, we have county elections, and we have state and federal primaries and state and federal general elections. People have already announced, people have already raised a significant amount of money for some of those seats. And so we'll be talking about that on upcoming podcasts. But until then, you know how to contact me, Brian at brianhornback.com, and check out brianhornback.com on a regular basis. Facebook, there's a brianhornback.com Facebook page. There's a Brian Hornback, Tennessee Republican State Executive Committee District 6 Facebook page. Go join those, share those. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the Snowflake Ball coming up in February. I got to raise more money in January than I raised in November and December, but we got that coming up. So y'all have a great time. Let me see. Let me give you a little bit more of this music. Hold on, and we'll close it out with this. Come on. It'd be nice if I could do this, you know? So anyway, I appreciate it. We'll see y'all on the next broadcast of the Brian Hornback Experience, coming to you from the Old Forge Distillery podcast studio. Thanks to Gasoline and Vertebrate for the